Hello world, welcome back to Razor RC. Got another review video for you today, and what we have in front of us is the Dumbo RC X6 radio transmitter. So a lot of people have actually been asking me to do a review of this radio. I haven't actually done a radio review in close to a year, so I figured it's about time to do another one. Banggood also was interested in sending me one of these to review, so I was like, okay, sure, go ahead and send me one. And so they sent it out. Yeah, and here it is. This is the Dumbo RC X6. Comes in two colors in this model, either a kind of a metallic blue or what they call a gold, which is what they sent me. To me, it looks a little more like a rose gold, so a little bit of a pinkish color. So if you're pink adverse, this is probably not the color that you want, but that's what they got and sent me out. So I'm going to review this radio in a bunch of different categories, rank it from 1 to 5 stars in each of those categories, and then kind of give you a conclusion and a little demo at the end. So the first thing I want to talk about is this radio. It's a 6-channel radio, sells for about $30 at the time of this recording, which is really cheap. You can find it on Banggood.com. Click on the link below to pick one of these up. But yeah, 6-channel radio made by Dumbo RC, kind of a weird name, but as far as I can tell, they're sort of new in the industry, have just kind of released a bunch of radios. This comes in different versions. It comes with basically a 4-channel, 5-channel, 6-channel, which is this one, and then there's a couple different receivers it can come with. This is the 6-channel gyro version, but they also have a 6-channel non-gyro version, which sells for like $7 less, but for 30 bucks, you know, I'd say just pick up this one. No reason to get one of the cheaper ones. It's already really cheap. There's been a little bit of questions about Dumbo RC and where they come from. Some people at RC Groups actually opened up this receiver and noticed that it actually said Radio Link on the board. So it looks like the receiver at least is made by Radio Link. And so I actually reached out to Radio Link and asked them what was the story behind Dumbo RC. They basically said that Dumbo is their manufacturing plant, so that's where the Radio Link products are made. Radio Link does all the design and specs and everything, but Dumbo is the plant that actually builds these things. So Dumbo decided to come out with their own radios, and under their own name, Dumbo RC, and are licensing the Radio Link technology. So that's why you see Radio Link on the circuit boards and stuff like that. But Radio Link did mention that they are not using the latest Radio Link technology, but licensing some older stuff. So you don't get all the latest features and technology and all that kind of stuff. But for a budget radio, you know, this is certainly an alternative. So that's the Dumbo RC in a nutshell, and let's get on with the review. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the design and construction, and let's kind of take a look at this radio. 6-channel radio. Obviously, you've got steering and throttle, and then channel 3, you've got a push button here, and then channel 4 is a 3-position switch. You have an on-off switch here on the side, and then channels 5 and 6 are these knobs up top. Then you've got a little compartment you can open up, and it's got all your basic adjustments. So channel reversing for channels 1 and 2, and then 4 knobs. So the top 2 knobs are for trim, channels 1 and 2, and the bottom 2 knobs are for dual rate, channels 1 and 2. Now, they're not labeled or anything, so I end up just taking a little silver Sharpie and marking them myself, but that's actually what they do. And you will notice that they actually misspelled Dumbo RC here at the bottom. I like that the knobs are actually covered, although this thing doesn't stay up very well and kind of tends to fall down by itself while you're trying to adjust things, so that's slightly annoying. But overall construction is really nice. Solid, very high quality plastics. You got a little loop attachment point here. The grip itself is like a nice textured, hard plastic, but textured sort of non-slip design. Trigger feels good. And then on the bottom, you actually have 4 AA's with a JST connector down here all the way in the back. Although this is kind of an odd shaped size, so it'd be hard to fit a battery in there. Sliding compartment door, and yeah, so the construction is quite good. On the back side, you also have a 5-volt input. It says, I guess you can actually run off of this or charge a battery or whatever, I'm not really sure. And then there's also a connection to use this as sort of like a simulator radio itself. Now, the steering wheel does not come with this little foam piece I put on top. It's just a hard plastic piece, although you can put your own foam around it to kind of give it a little more grip. So yeah, that's the construction of the radio. Integrated antenna. Overall, I think the construction is actually really high. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Just high quality plastics. You know, nothing really wrong with it except for the hard plastic wheel. Integrated antenna, you know, nice little cover. So overall, really high construction, well constructed radio, and I'm going to give it above average score, 4 stars. So moving on to the features, and for $30, this packs quite a bit of features in such a low price. So obviously, as mentioned, it's a 6-channel radio. Really, you can't find a 6-channel radio for this low of a price. $30 is unbelievable. In addition to that, you've got the gyro on the receiver itself. So it's actually got stability control. Will actually do input management for you if your vehicle's getting out of shape. Just a high quality radio. You know, when you turn this on, it even has a little blue LED on top. When you push this channel 3 button, it actually lights up. So, you know, even the lights are above average. So features on this thing are really nice. There's a little bit of misunderstanding. Some people think this radio actually has ABS because this little brochure comes with some stuff in Chinese that says something about ABS, but it does not actually have ABS. I put out a video already. You can check that out up here in the upper right. If you want to find out more about the ABS testing I did, it does not have ABS, so don't get confused by that. I think they actually just meant gyro when they wrote ABS, because when you look at the manual itself, it just talks about the gyro with reference to those pictures. So, but it does have gyro. It also has this tracked mode. Or mixed mode they call it. So basically for like tanks or tracked vehicles, you can actually use some mixing to control the 2 tracks separately and still have your steering and your throttle. So pretty impressive amount of features. I'm going to give it 4 stars because it is really nice. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is some kind of endpoint control. This just has dual rate for steering and throttle, and you know, not really, radios in this price range are not going to have endpoints, but it would have been nice to just have 2 knobs to adjust your steering on your left and right hand side independently. Dual rate forces you to make them exactly the same, and most cars actually have a little bit more steering on one side, so you're not going to get, you know, full steering throw with this radio. But you know, for an RTR level radio, this is definitely above average. Okay, moving on to the controls, and 6 channels is a ton of controls. Obviously, you got the steering and throttle, and channels 3 and 4 are sort of switched and button presses, but channel 5 and 6 are full analog knobs. So really high level amount of controls. The grip itself is actually quite comfortable. Definitely top marks for that. The right shape, the right distance. It even has sort of this textured finish. The trigger itself is really nice. Tiny bit of play, but just the perfect length, perfect distance. Everything is really nice. Steering wheel is pretty good. You know, it actually has this hard plastic wheel, which isn't, you know, again, not that great, but it actually has indentations for fingers, which I found slightly better than something like a Spectrum DX2E, which has hard plastic wheels but is actually less comfortable to use. And you can put a little rubber grip around that if you choose. So overall, controls are pretty good. I'm going to give it above average score. I'm going to give it 4 stars. If it had a rubber wheel, that would have given it a full 5 stars. But overall, a very comfortable radio, good heft, you know, fits well in your hand, and so definitely above average. All right, let's talk about the receiver, and what this comes with is the X6FG. They also make a non-gyro version, but this is $8. I mean, it's super cheap. Receiver comes with a gyro. I mean, unbelievable value for that receiver. Downsides are it is pretty cheaply constructed. I mean, when you're putting plugs in and out, it kind of feels like, you know, the board's going to pop out of the casing. The other thing I didn't like is that the actual button to set this receiver, like to bind it or change the gyro direction, is actually right here on the bottom. So usually when this thing is plugged into your car, it's kind of hard to get to that actual button. You kind of need like a 90-degree Allen wrench or something to push it, depending on how it's oriented. Also has an antenna, which is pretty standard in this price range, but yeah, overall still a pretty good receiver, $4. Now, I will say that this radio is single model only, so you cannot control like a whole fleet of these RC cars with this. So even if you bought more receivers, I mean, it'd be really hard to kind of control them all with this. You'd have to bind them individually. But for $8, 6-channel receiver, gyro included. It even has like a little LED light. I mean, that's quite a bit of value. I'm going to give the receiver 4 stars. This radio comes with a couple pieces of paper. One is more of like a brochure in Chinese. I guess there's a little code you can scan and look stuff up, but I didn't find this particularly helpful. It's mostly in Chinese. There's a little bit of English, but it's really more of like a advertisement of what this radio does as opposed to actually how to use it. And it shows sort of different colors. As far as I know, the 6-channel gyro-enabled one only comes in gold and blue, but looks like some of the 4-channel or 5-channel radios come in different colors. It also comes with this photocopied piece of paper that is the quick start guide, and as far as I can tell, there's no way to find this online. You can find pictures of this piece of paper, but if you go to the Dumbo RC website, you cannot actually download it and read it, so kind of a downside. Also, I found the English somewhat lacking. I mean, obviously, this radio is made in China, but you know, a lot of the terminology used didn't quite make a whole lot of sense to me. So there are things like this program mode, and they talk about routes and stuff. I couldn't tell if that was endpoints or what it was. It's actually just calibration, but I did find that definitely confusing in sort of these steps. Looks like there's even some Chinese numbers here, but you know, we're not particularly helpful. So manual, I'm definitely going to give a pretty low score. You cannot find a copy online, so if you lose this, you're kind of out of luck. The English is quite poor. The explanations are not that great. So I'm going to give it 1 star for the manual. You got to at least have a copy online, but yeah, that's my rating. Okay, the last category is value, and this radio sells for $30, which to me means it's kind of targeted at the RTR market, people that lose their radio or break their radio that comes with their car, or maybe they're looking for a simple upgrade with a gyro and they really want an economical choice. At $30, this is a slam dunk, really high value, 5 stars. There's nothing better you can get in this price range. And the part that actually impresses me the most is that the construction is really, really high on this. The quality of the build itself is really nice. The plastics are good, the grip, all the controls are really, really good. I didn't test the distance, but you know, people say the distance on this thing is outrageous. The manual says 400 meters, so if it does even 200 meters, I'd be super impressed. So yeah, just a really good value overall. $30 is insanely cheap. I don't know how they can build this for so cheap, but value, 5 stars. So before we get into the conclusion, I just wanted to show you what it actually looks like when it's operating. So let's go ahead and turn on the radio. You get the little blue LED. And then I actually have the receiver plugged in my low C Tenacity short course truck. I've got channel 1 connected to the servo and channel 2 connected to the ESC. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And so you'll see it flashing, and then you'll see the actual wheel center. And then when you get that solid green light, that means it's fully on. So right now I actually have the gyro enabled, and so we'll kind of show the adjustments for that. On the radio itself, channel 6 is used for the gyro, so right now it's all the way turned up, but you can also turn it off or get anywhere between 0 and 100%. I find that at about 50 to 60% is about right for this particular truck, but if you want to turn it off, you can turn it all the way down, and then you'll see that the gyro is not doing anything. Now, if you want to bind the actual radio, what you do is you turn the receiver on, have the radio on, and then you have to push that button on the side. And so something like this I found is useful. This is actually a diff adjustment tool made by TLR, but you need kind of like a little 90-degree thing so you can get to that button on the side. And then you'll see it flash and go solid green again, and then it's actually bound. The second thing you can do is reverse the gyro itself. So let's turn the gyro all the way up. You got the gyro going. Now if you decide you want to mount the receiver reverse, so maybe you want to flip it all the way around, you'll have to reverse the gyro. So for that button, you actually want to push it twice. And then you actually see it kind of like turn into the direction of a turn rather than go opposite. Normally, if it's sliding to the right, you want the wheels to turn left, but now it's reverse and will actually flip right when it's sliding. So you want to make sure you do that before you actually set the normal reverse setting on your actual steering trim itself, this switch here. Make sure you have your gyro going the right direction, and then you can adjust the neutral or reverse there. And then the last thing you can do is actually disable the gyro itself. So you want to go ahead and push that button 3 times. 1, 2. And then you'll see it flashing green. That means gyro is off. So even though we have the gyro turned all the way up, it's disabled. And then we can go ahead and turn that back on. You push it again 3 times. And then you'll actually see it flashing red. Now we got the gyro back. So yeah, that's pretty much how to use the actual buttons on the receiver itself and all the different settings that are available there. So my final thoughts on the Dumbo RC X6 radio transmitter and receiver is that it is an amazing value, super high quality. You get a lot of bang for the buck. I mean, the gyro actually works. I did test it out. It does help with driving in loose conditions. 6 channels is just an amazing amount of features for the price point. The handle, the controls are actually really good. Steering wheel, not the greatest, but if you put on some kind of foam slipcover, then it's actually not that bad. 4 AA's, which is nice. Range is really good. Integrated antenna, even a little cover for your knobs so you don't actually adjust them. Blue LED lights. I mean, so just a lot of value, a lot of bang for the buck. Only real downsides are that it only does 1 model, so you can't really use this as sort of what I call an entry-level radio where you want to control like a whole fleet of RC cars. This is only really for 1 RC car. But if you want to do a lot of bashing, if you want something for the outdoor dirt, I think this is an excellent choice. If you break your RTR radio, I think this is an excellent choice. The only other downside I feel with this radio is I wish it had endpoint adjustments. So most RTR radios really don't have endpoint adjustments. The Tactic does, the TQI, you can actually get some endpoints, but this one does not. So it does not make a real great race radio, even though the controls themselves are actually pretty good. The throttle, the steering, everything is very linear, but probably not a good race radio because you don't have that endpoint adjustments. But anyways, I'm quite impressed by this little entry from Dumbo RC. So my final rating for this radio is I'm going to give it 4 stars. It's definitely a really good radio. Not perfect, otherwise it would get 5 stars. Doesn't have the endpoint adjustments. Can't control more than 1 model, but excellent entry into the market from Dumbo RC, and definitely recommend it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the add notifications button. Look for more videos soon, and thanks for watching.